Hey, I'm Bill Mandra. I'm here today with Ryan Ballantine, our Director of Product Management for our Horizon Private Cloud and AI environment. Ryan, we're down here in downtown Iceland, not too far away from the data center. We see more and more clients moving into private cloud from public cloud. What do you think the main drivers behind that are?
So one of the main drivers we have is data. So knowing where your data lives, do you actually own it yourself? And where is it being trained? And that's something in the public cloud, say with Anthropic, OpenAI, we actually don't know where the data is or what's been happening to that data. So what we have with our own private mind solution is you actually own your own data. You deploy your own hardware, storage solutions, and any layers on top of that for services. And that's one of the big drivers that we're seeing. In Iceland, we're actually in Reykjavik right now, allows us to have a solution where you can meet your ESG commitments as well.
Yep.
All renewable energy here in Iceland, beautiful scenery, but at the same time, the space and power to actually do that. So, multiple Grace Hopper, Blackwell units, the architecture around that are very power hungry. Although we have been able to deploy it in New York and London,
Yep.
If you need to scale, this is where it's really, really important.
Yeah, and obviously cost is a factor as well, right? For a lot of clients. I think I saw some numbers just last week. We were looking at, over the course of a 3-year lifespan, something like a $4 to $5 million savings moving from public cloud to private cloud.
Yeah.
Is that a major driver as well?
Yeah, of course, because obviously we know things about the public cloud, which is, you leave things on. Everybody's had their AWS bill before. That's also a factor, but at the same time, you actually own your own, that you are owning your own thing. So that's definitely something that's a consideration here.
So obviously we have clients, that are moving further and further into the AI development pipeline and deploying that. But we've been deploying some AI internally at Options.
Yeah.
What kind of cool use cases? Anything come to mind to meet projects internally at Options that you've seen?
Yeah. So we've actually worked on a few internal projects, not only for our own monitoring and operations, but also fun projects for our AI and machine learning specialists internally. So some of them are a thing we've developed called Buffett Bot, which is trained on Warren Buffett's end of year memos. With Charlie Munger, so it speaks like Charlie and Warren Buffett. We've been able to ingest our own Parquet handlers for different data file formats which you can't really do elsewhere. But the other thing we've actually done is we have our Atlas Fabric backbone, Atlas Vision. We're actually able to ingest that data in there and say, within the last 5 days, what was the latency across tertiary links and things.
Some stuff like that where the AI is interpreting the link status and kind of giving a summary.
Yeah, and every day we give our clients, start of day checks, in terms of their systems, their compute, what's happening. And we're actually able to summarize that in a few sentences before we even send that out. So, if you see everything's green, it'll just say, give you a summary, and it's really easy to read that.
That's super neat.
Right? So,
what do you think for the Horizon platform? Any new features, functionality coming down the pipeline that we can talk about a little bit?
Yeah, so we've got a shared platform at Options where we have compute, virtual desktop integration containers running around the world. What we actually have ingested there is our shared platform with dedicated storage running off Blackwell and Grace Hopper compute. And what we've just done is, everything's end-to-end encrypted. Your chats are all, they never leave this vicinity of the Options network because it's all open source models we use. And that's one really key important factor we have. It's all private. But what we've been able to do is deploy MCP servers, integrate with APIs, but also, even simple things like database integrations. Maybe it's MySQL, SQL itself, or even Postgres. So you actually host that in Options. It's all privately accessed, and you can just ask it whatever's in that database, for example.
I saw a demo that you did with market data where you're able to kind of ask the AI to kind of give an analysis of trading that happened on a particular day.
Yeah, so that's really important for compliance and regulation. Organizations that are in that sphere of influence. You've got large mountains of data, and that could be even PCAP data, for example, which is like a lot of data. So you can actually sift through that. Were there any trading halts? Who are the biggest market participants on a certain day? That's the sort of thing that we can use with this. It's large amounts of data, so why wouldn't you use a large language model or anything, a fine-tuned model or something else that's you can deploy yourself?
Yeah. And one other thing that comes up from time to time, conversation with clients is, the move from public cloud to private cloud can be tricky.
Yeah, big time.
What kind of things can we do to help with clients to kind of get that move done?
Yeah, so over the last few years, we've seen public cloud budgets, sort of move to AI budgets as well. So everybody wanted to be in the public cloud a few years ago. Now everybody wants a piece of AI.
Yeah.
But what do they want? What is it they're actually getting, or what do they want? So we're there to help our clients. Whether it's inference, it could be low latency inference with our Fabric backbone, or it could simply be just deploying services within the data center. In terms of the private cloud aspect, I think the main thing that we're concerned about is the privacy of it. You need to own your own data, so that is the big key thing we've seen. You can't really trust that your proprietary IP is out in the sphere of influence of Anthropic, OpenAI, other sort of providers that ultimately will be training on your data, or could be training on your data. Is probably
there's really not much in terms of protections and a lot of the shared kind of public AI models in terms of how your data is used.
It's not very clear, but there are stipulations there and T's and C's that we have seen. But at the end of the day, we have clients in private cloud anyway who are security conscious. So why wouldn't you just hook up, some sort of other compute, particularly here in Iceland? If you did need large scale compute operation across, a network that's already there, it's kind of just plug and play.
Yeah, and obviously we have connectivity back to North America and the US.
Yeah.
So, getting data in and out, accessing the environment, get easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's another major factor is we have data on ramps, so you're actually able to upload or bring data to us easily because we have the bandwidth to do that. But also at the same time, we're conveniently placed here in Iceland as well, between London and US, direct links to both. So actually, if there's anything to happen across the Atlantic anyway, there's actually another link, another tertiary link there. So our clients will never be, dark, which is another really important factor here we have.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it there, the on-ramps, right? We have multiple on-ramps and options to multiple cloud providers today.
Yeah.
Are we looking to extend that offering to make it easier for clients to connect between the public cloud and private cloud?
Yeah, of course. So we support multiple clients in the public cloud as well. Agnostic, what's best for our clients.
Yep.
AWS Direct Connects, Azure Express Route. We have loads of those already running across our hybrid platform. And Iceland, which that gives us the ability to even have it connected into here from the public cloud. If it was a case that you actually wanted to train models, have it for inference here, or even just deploy compute and storage here that it's here.
Yeah, I think one challenge that we've seen in a lot of public cloud deployments is the inability to get real-time streaming market data in.
Yeah.
Now, obviously in Iceland, we can do that. It's not going to be as latency optimized as it would be in New York or London. But even in the major markets, a private cloud deployment, we support multicast natively and market data natively on our platform.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a big differentiator between us and what the public cloud can offer? Yeah,
of course, because we can obviously ingest that market data into our platform, wherever it is around the world. There's 70 data centers we're already in. So we're able to do that anywhere. But the thing is, if you wanted to actually do that here in Iceland, probably more computational tasks, higher computational tasks that actually take up large scale compute. You need that. So potentially having that here, maybe it's ingesting even historical market data, for example, doing your operations in a lower cost region where you can actually have more compute and then send the traffic and the data back.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
To New York. You could even send it, you can send it anywhere across our backbone. And that's a really important factor that, a challenge we've had before, and it's great that we're actually here today.
The other challenge that I think a lot of clients are struggling with at the moment is really just trying to figure out how they want to use AI.
Yeah.
Has that been something that you've seen a lot? I mean, I know that there's some clients that, are very deep into their AI pipeline at this point, but I think there's still some that are just kind of feeling their way out and trying to figure out, personally, I feel like Iceland gives them a low cost opportunity to kind of get in and start looking at stuff. to kind of kick the tires a little bit.
And it also, I would think, we've already discussed it in ESG, for example. Like, organizations do have committees for, meeting their environmental standards. So that is a really big consideration here. The cost, can be at least, or up to 5-10 times cheaper than London to host things here. But also having the right partners, I think, is a really key consideration for us. Who can we bring to the data center, like Pure Storage, NVIDIA, OpenShift, from Red Hat, those sort of things to deploy actual multiple systems. So it's just not AI compute, it's everything that's around it. So storage, is that high performance, high throughput? What sort of things do you do in there? But also at the same time, do you need a containerized solution so we can have it all in the same place?
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you can't actually work out of Iceland if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think the storage is an interesting aspect of it. Obviously, we do, like you said, we deploy pure storage arrays with all of our private cloud deployments. Both FlashBlade and object-based storage.
Yeah.
So it's almost a seamless transition from public cloud to private cloud.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, we work with Pure Storage all the time in terms of actually their latest offerings. So what are they bringing to the market in terms of AI solutions? And that's something we're actually able to be at the forefront of. We're very good at actually getting equipment, getting compute, delivered as well. So that's definitely something that we're here to help our clients. We're here to advise our clients, and we have a duty to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on supply chain. That's obviously a key thing. I know, on the data center side, working with the procurement team, we're generally, ordering equipment, 6 months out from when we think it'll be deployed, right? So trying to make sure that we actually have stock of, whatever our clients might need in the future, so that we can kind of cut those lead times down a bit. Yeah,
big time, because we obviously have seen, like, everybody wants a piece of a Blackwell.
Yep.
Maybe the B200, GP200, 300s that, other providers now have. And that's something that, and I say other providers, XAI, OpenAI, Microsoft, are all wanting this sort of compute. So how do you get it? It's very hard to get your hands on something like that. So we just worked with our providers, vendors, and that sort of aspect. And we're actually able to have a really good relationship there to get this stuff here quick.
Yeah, so I know right now we have the NVIDIA B200 deployed, which are a beast. And we've been talking about the latest generation, which is the B300. What kind of performance uplift are we talking about between B200 and B300?
Even the B200 is, if you've got eight Blackwell GPUs in a B200 HGX system, it's 1.5 terabytes of RAM. When you go from the B200 to the B300, you're talking about not only 400 gig NICs, but 800 gig NICs.
Yep.
So that's something that we specialize in. We do that every day across our backbone. So we know how to do that. So we've got switches there that can actually uphold that as well. Working with Mellanox, obviously, for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a big part of our design too here in Iceland, and for all the private cloud deployments, is to make sure that the design is kind of structured so that we can easily swap out between CPU compute, GPU compute, and have the right number of uplinks for redundant connectivity and high bandwidth into the storage and the back end.
And you touched a really good aspect there, I think, in terms of what we can do and how we can do it. But the data center here in Iceland actually gives us the opportunity to scale. So that's the big thing. We have a lot of space here now, a lot of power to actually scale. We've deployed Blackwell GPUs in London. We've got Grace hoppers running all across the States in New York. But the problem there is that some of these data centers and the racks, say, like in the MY4s, 3s, 6s, it's very hard to actually get the right space and the right power.
I mean, the big thing is power density, right? And a lot of the traditional colo facilities that we're in, we're looking at, generally 10, maybe 20 kilowatts a cabinet. A single Blackwell B200 alone is 14.5 kilowatts.
Never mind everything else.
Everything else, And then, obviously, when we get into, Iceland, we're looking at starting at about 30 kilowatts a cabinet with the ability to scale up to over 100.
And then obviously being able to connect into other aspects of the data center there as well.
So Ryan, thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with me this morning. Stay tuned for some more content from us from Iceland.